Okay, so you know how it is, right? You always hear these terms left and right thrown around like all the time when people talk about politics.
Yep.
And I bet a lot of you listening are thinking, can't we all just get along? Like, why can't we just see each other as humans?
Oh, yeah.
It's such a normal reaction to.
Yeah, for sure. A lot of people feel that way.
But that question, why we even have these categories left and right, what do they really mean? Well, that's what we're diving deep into today.
For sure. It's a big topic these days.
To help us unpack this, we're going to be referencing some really cool AI research. The AI dove into these concepts from all different angles. So we're looking at this from multiple perspectives, not just one.
And that's really important, right, to get the full picture.
Definitely. So our goal here isn't to pick a side. We're not getting into those left versus right battles. What we really want to figure out is, why does this labeling happen? How does it affect us as individuals and society? And honestly, what does it even mean at its core?
Great questions. And, the AI research actually points to something really basic about being human.
Okay. What's that?
We all categorize things. It's something we do naturally. We group things, ideas, even people, based on what they share. It's like we're always looking for patterns and similarities, trying to make sense of the world around us.
Right, like we form groups and communities, we support certain teams, things like that.
Exactly. We like to categorize and label things. And when you apply that to society, well, this happens around shared values, shared ideas about how things should work, how things should be organized.
Okay, so this instinct to form groups, to have these shared values, that's kind of baked into being human, isn't it?
That's what the research suggests, yeah. It might even go back to, like, our evolutionary past,
Right.
Back in the day, forming these tight-knit groups, it probably helped us survive.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah, like cooperating within the group, but also knowing who's outside the group, that was probably pretty important.
Makes sense.
So fast forward to today, those in-groups, they often have similar ideas about how society should be run, like who should lead, how should we share resources, what does fairness even mean in a society? And the left and right, they become these big labels for those different approaches. It's like a shorthand, a way of quickly understanding where people generally stand on those big questions.
So it's more than just a modern political thing then, isn't it? This left and right thing.
Oh yeah, definitely. What's interesting is that the AI highlighted how this idea shows up in so many parts of the human experience. It's not just politics, it's much broader than that.
You're right. The AI does mention this back and forth between a desire for change and wanting to stick with what we know, tradition.
Yeah, exactly. It's about how we think about time and history. You see it throughout history, this constant back and forth. You have folks pushing for progress, for new ways of doing things, for changing the systems that are already in place. Then you have others who are saying, hey, hold on, tradition is important, it gives us stability, let's stick with what's worked in the past.
It's like a constant tension between those two impulses.
Exactly. And that tension, that push and pull between wanting to preserve and wanting to progress, that's often what the left-right spectrum reflects. If you look back at historical events, so many of them can be seen through this lens. This constant pendulum swing between the urge to preserve tradition and the drive for progress is really the essence of this whole right-left tension.
So even before we had these terms left and right, the underlying tension, that was already there.
Exactly. The labels themselves are pretty recent, but that core dynamic, that's old. Very old.
I never thought about it like that. Okay, well, the AI study also gets into something a bit more controversial, I guess.
Oh, yeah. You're talking about genetics and biology, right?
Yeah, exactly. What did the AI find when it looked into that?
Well, it highlighted research suggesting that certain personality traits, which we know have some biological basis, well, they might be connected to someone's general political leanings.
Oh, okay.
So, for example, someone who's really open to new experiences, they might be more likely to lean towards liberal ideas. While someone who's super organized and careful, they might be more drawn to conservative viewpoints.
I see. So it's not like there's a gene that determines if you're left or...
Right. No, not at all. The AI was very clear about that. Genetics might create certain predispositions or tendencies, but it doesn't determine your political beliefs. What really shapes our views is our environment, our upbringing, our culture, and of course, what we experience in life. Those factors are way more powerful.
It's like a gentle nudge in a certain direction, not a predetermined path, right?
Exactly. That's a much better way to put it. It's a subtle influence, not a fixed outcome.
Right.
Genes don't make you vote a certain way.
That's really important to clarify. So what about the role of philosophy? How does that play into shaping these left and right ideas?
Well, political philosophy has a huge impact on how we think about these things. It provides the underlying ideas for many left and right viewpoints. So if you think about philosophies that are all about equality and social welfare, those often align with the left. On the other hand, philosophies that really emphasize individual freedom and keeping the government out of people's lives, well, those often underpin right-leaning perspectives.
Oh, that makes sense.
Basically, these philosophical traditions offer different answers to those fundamental questions about how society should be structured. It's like this core tension between emphasizing either individual rights, which is also associated with the right, or social equality, which is more often associated with the left, as the primary goal of society.
So these big philosophical ideas, they become the foundations for political platforms.
That's right. And philosophers have been debating these questions for centuries. Their ideas have had a massive influence on how political ideologies have evolved over time. What's cool is that the AI study also made some connections to fields like, wait for it, physics and math.
Physics and math. Really? How do those relate to this whole left-right thing?
It's mostly through metaphor, actually. Think about polarity in physics, right? It's not just about opposites, it's about interconnected forces, like the push and pull in a magnet. It's the same with political ideologies. There's this tension between individual needs and what's good for society. The idea of a spectrum in math is also helpful. It lets us visualize the range of political views. It's not just two fixed points. Political thought exists on this continuum.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like, it's not just left and right, but a whole range of views in between.
Exactly. And on top of that, math is increasingly being used to analyze political data, like voting patterns or even economic inequality.
That's fascinating. It's
Yeah.
like using math to try to understand how we think about politics.
Exactly. So yeah, the idea of different points on a spectrum, that's way better than just thinking about two opposing sides. Now, the study also brings up something else, which is logic.
Okay, so how does logic fit into all this?
Well, both the left and the right, they use logic to build their arguments and also to kind of pick apart the other side's arguments.
Right.
So they use reasoning to support their ideas about policies and to explain how they see the world. But the AI points out something really important.
Oh, what's that?
Our logic, well, it's often mixed with our existing beliefs and our emotions.
Oh, yeah, I see what you mean.
And that can really affect how we understand information and how we interpret it.
So, okay, even if an argument sounds logical, those starting assumptions, well, they might be influenced by our biases.
Exactly. You hit the nail on the head. And that brings us to the individual level. The study talks about our state of mind, which is just another way of saying our personal experiences and current situations.
And those can definitely affect our political views, right?
Oh, absolutely. Think about it. Someone who's struggling to make ends meet, they might be more drawn to policies that offer a safety net, like social programs.
That makes perfect sense.
And on the flip side, someone who's doing well financially, they might be more open to policies that emphasize individual responsibility and less government intervention.
Right, so it's not just about abstract ideas. It's about how those ideas connect to our own lives and experiences.
Exactly. And that's where the whole idea of political ideology comes in. The AI study actually describes these ideologies as belief systems.
Belief systems, huh?
Yeah, it's like a set of beliefs about how society should function.
And those can be pretty deeply held, right?
Oh, absolutely. They can be very deeply rooted and often tied to our other fundamental beliefs about ethics, culture, even spirituality. They become a core part of our worldview, like the lens through which we see and interact with the world around us. So yeah, belief systems are powerful stuff. So we've talked about where these left-right ideas come from and how they're shaped by our biology, experiences, even philosophy. But the big question is, how does this all impact us? How does it affect us as individuals and the people around us?
Right, that's the key question. The AI study pointed out how, for individuals, these political labels, they can become a big part of our identity. Like, it can affect who we hang out with, what news we read or watch, even how we see ourselves.
It's true. It can be a source of belonging, a way of connecting with like-minded people, but it can also lead to what we call echo chambers, where you're mostly surrounded by information that reinforces your existing beliefs. And as a result, you're less likely to be exposed to different viewpoints. And of course, let's not forget about relationships.
Oh, yeah. Political disagreements, those can cause some serious tension, right? Especially with family and friends.
It can be so tricky to navigate those conversations, particularly when you're dealing with differences in core values. It can be like walking on eggshells. And this impact, it goes way beyond our personal circles. The study points out how, even on a global scale, things are often organized along political lines, within countries and between them.
Oh, for sure. It's like international alliances, trade agreements, even the way news is reported globally. It's all influenced by these political alignments.
It's everywhere. Okay, now let's get into something really interesting. Let's talk about the underlying logic of the left and right. Can you break down the general principles that guide each side?
That's a great question. So in very broad terms, the left often prioritizes social equality and the well-being of the community.
That's right.
So logically, this leads to supporting government intervention to address inequalities, right?
Yeah.
Things like progressive taxation to redistribute wealth and social safety nets to help those who need it most.
Right.
It's all based on the idea that society has a responsibility to ensure a basic standard of living and equal opportunities for everyone.
Yeah, exactly. It's about collective well-being. Everyone deserves a fair shot. Now, what about the right? What are their guiding principles? What's the logic there?
So the right generally emphasizes individual liberty and a limited role for government in our lives.
Makes sense.
This logic then leads to support for things like free markets, lower taxes, and the belief that people should be primarily responsible for their own success.
Right. It's about individual initiative and personal responsibility.
Exactly. It's the idea that individual freedom and economic liberty are the best ways to create prosperity and opportunity. They believe that too much government involvement can actually stifle innovation and get in the way of people taking initiative.
And both sides have good points, right? It's just different approaches to how to create a better society.
Exactly. And it's super important to remember that these are just general tendencies, and there's a ton of variation within both the left and the right.
It's a spectrum, not two boxes.
That's a great way to put it. Okay, so we're always hearing these terms, liberal and conservative
Right.
too. How do those fit in with left and right?
It can be confusing because these terms are often used interchangeably, especially in Western politics, but they actually have different historical roots and slightly different focuses.
Okay, let's break it down then. What about liberalism? Where did that come from?
Historically, liberalism emphasized individual rights, freedoms, and a government that doesn't have too much power. And that makes sense, right? The word liberal comes from liberty. Modern liberalism, particularly in the U.S., often aligns with the left on social and economic issues.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so modern liberals often advocate for social justice, using the government as a tool to solve social problems. But on the other hand, conservatism, historically that focused on the importance of tradition, established institutions, and making changes slowly and carefully. So modern conservatism often aligns with the right.
It's like a preference for the familiar, the tried and true.
Exactly. It's about preserving what's worked in the past. And so modern conservatives often advocate for a smaller government, individual responsibility, and upholding traditional values.
Yeah.
However, it's not always so clear-cut.
Yeah, you're right. It's not always that straightforward.
Right, the lines can get blurry. You can have folks who are socially liberal, meaning they're open to social change, but fiscally conservative, meaning they prefer less government involvement in the economy. And then there are others who are fiscally conservative but hold more moderate social views.
So saying the left is always liberal and the right is always conservative, that's a bit too simple.
Way too simple. There are tons of shades of gray in between. Okay, let's rewind a bit. Let's go back to the roots of those labels left and right. Where did they even come from?
I'm curious about that too.
Well, according to the study, these terms first popped up during the French Revolution. So think late 18th century, a time of huge social upheaval.
Oh, wow. That's a long time ago.
Yep. So in the French National Assembly, get this, the folks who supported the monarchy, the old way of doing things, they literally sat on the right side of the speaker. And the people who supported the revolution, big changes, they sat on the left.
Wow. So it all started from where they were sitting.
It really did. And over time, these terms, left and right, they basically took on a symbolic meaning. Left became linked with people who wanted progress and more equality, while right became linked with people who favored tradition and the existing social order. It's crazy how something as simple as a seating arrangement can have such a lasting impact.
It's kind of a historical accident in a way. So the AI study also talks about some common perceptions of left and right, which can sometimes turn into misconceptions.
Well,
right?
yeah, for sure. There are definitely some stereotypes out there that don't always reflect reality.
One that always comes up is this idea of liberals being peace-loving activists.
Right, like all liberals are just out there protesting and hugging trees. This is a stereotype. While those values are definitely associated with modern liberalism, it's a huge oversimplification. People from across the political spectrum, they can value peace and advocate for positive change. They might just have different ideas about how to get there or what issues are most important.
So you can't just assume everyone on one side is all about peace and love, and everyone on the other side is the opposite.
Exactly. It's way more nuanced than that. Another common misconception is that science is liberal because it's opposed to religion, which is conservative. Have you heard that one?
Oh yeah, that one's pretty common.
It makes sense at first glance, right? But it's actually a misconception. Science is a way of understanding the natural world. It's not inherently tied to any political ideology. Throughout history, you can find scientists who held all sorts of political and religious beliefs. The relationship between science, religion, and politics is way more complicated than just saying one side is pro-science and the other is anti-science.
It's like saying all scientists are atheists, which we know isn't true.
Exactly. It's a stereotype.
And it's really important to remember what you said at the very beginning, that idea of just seeing each other as human without all these labels. The study recognizes that as a worthy goal.
Absolutely. It's a beautiful aspiration.
But it also points out that in a world with so many different viewpoints, it's complicated.
Right. We're all complex beings with different ideas and values. And these labels, they can sometimes be a way to understand those differences.
It's like trying to navigate a complex world. Labels can be helpful tools, but we have to be careful not to oversimplify things or use them to divide people.
Exactly. It's all about finding the balance. The study also points out how labels can sometimes hide all the diversity within a particular group.
Like assuming everyone in the same political party agrees on everything.
Yeah, or using the same label to describe political systems that are actually really different. It's important to remember that within any political group, there's a whole range of opinions and beliefs. It's rarely a monolithic entity.
Right. It's not like everyone on the left thinks exactly alike or everyone on the right agrees on every issue.
Exactly. And finally, the study addresses those really extreme and harmful labels we sometimes hear.
You're talking about things like calling the left communist terrorists and the right nationalistic fascists.
Yeah, that kind of language. The AI is very clear. These are extreme and inaccurate labels that don't represent the views of most people on either side of the political spectrum.
Those are fighting words, meant to shut down conversation, not encourage it.
Exactly. This kind of language is often used to demonize the other side, to make them seem like enemies. It's divisive and damaging to any kind of constructive dialogue.
So as we wrap up, what are the key takeaways from this deep dive? What should people keep in mind about left and right in politics?
Well, the main takeaway is that this whole idea of left and right, it's complicated. It's a really complex phenomenon that has deep roots in how we think as humans and how we organize ourselves as societies. And while it's great to dream of a world without labels, the tendency to categorize and form these political identities, it's likely a natural part of being human.
So it's not about getting rid of labels completely, but maybe being more thoughtful about how we use them.
Exactly. It's about nuance. It's about looking beyond those broad categories to really understand political ideas and the people who hold them. It's about critical thinking and engaging with these labels in a way that doesn't shut down conversation.
Wow, this has given me a lot to think about. Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's like you've given us a new map to understand this whole left-right landscape. It makes you wonder.
It really does. I'm wondering if we can truly grasp the origins of these categories, the left and the right. Maybe, just maybe, we can start having more productive conversations about politics. Maybe we can learn to appreciate all the different ways people envision a better future, even if they use different labels to describe it.
That's a really powerful thought. Thank you for sharing your insights with us today. And to you, our listeners, we hope you'll take some time to reflect on your own assumptions and the language you use when you talk about politics. Who knows, maybe we can all find a way to move beyond those labels and connect on a deeper level.
We can always hope.
Until next time.
See you then.
This is DigitView.